Welcome to Centenary College of Louisiana State Historic Site. The history of this site tells of two early 19th century institutions. The College of Louisiana, the first state college established in an English-speaking area in 1825, and in 1845, Centenary, a struggling Methodist college started in Brandon Springs, Mississippi. This is also the story of life in early Jackson and the Felicianas, of the development of early Louisiana education, of a nation and student body torn apart by civil war, and of the slow decay and demolition of a once proud institution. Ultimately, the story of Centenary is one of community support and preservation by local citizens and by the Louisiana Office of State Parks, which intervened before the final traces of this college were lost forever. The town of Jackson was founded in 1815 as the parish seat for Feliciana Parish that covered all of the present-day East and West Feliciana parishes. The town was the first to be named for Andrew Jackson following his victory over the British just 11 months prior. Jackson became known as a busy center of commerce, and later, through ties to the College of Louisiana and Centenary College, was also known as the Athens of the South. Jackson remains attractive today for the same reasons it did 200 years ago. An attractive rural setting with rolling hills, prosperous farms, healthy air away from the cities while still being close enough. Settled by gentry from France, Spain, and Eastern America, these founding families brought with them expectations of more modern and progressive towns. At one time, 2/3 of America's millionaires would live along the Mississippi River between New Orleans and Natchez. The state was wealthy with indigo, cotton, sugarcane, and river trade. The wealthy transplants helped seed the desire for a high-caliber college in Jackson. Families wanted a fine institution to shape their sons and future leaders, and they wanted it nearby. In 1825, the Louisiana legislature chartered 4 public colleges for the state. The College of Louisiana in Jackson was the first to open, and only boys were permitted to enroll. With the new college, several other places of learning arose in the Jackson area over the next 20 years that included the Florida Institute, also called Flowery Hill Academy, established in 1831, Jackson Female Academy, established in 1839, Feliciana Female Institute, established in 1842, and Feliciana High School, established in 1844. The College of Louisiana initially held classes in the courthouse and other buildings in Jackson. Initial enrollment was strong, and so the East and West dorm wings, impressive brick barrack-style dormitories, styled after the West Point Army Barracks, were built in the 1830s to house students on campus. Around the time of the completion of the second wing, the United States suffered a huge bank crash and the start of a 5-year depression with record unemployment. Nearly half of the country's 850 banks failed. Despite this period of widespread hardship, the college continued and even added a preparatory school for younger students. Yellow fever outbreaks also played havoc with enrollment, as students and families stayed out of public places with each Yellow Jack scare. At the height of the epidemic, 3/4 of the Clinton population was said to either have died or left town to avoid infection. Enrollment was at a low in the early 1840s, and the College of Louisiana was virtually bankrupt. The campus and its buildings were sold to the Methodist Conference, and the existing Methodist College in Brandon Springs, Mississippi, was relocated to the Jackson site and renamed Centenary College of Louisiana, opening its doors in 1845. Life as a student at Centenary in the 1840s was a far cry from the comforts and facilities enjoyed by students today. Some students were expected to provide for themselves, splitting their own firewood and keeping their fires in winter, and spending long days studying in the small dormitory rooms during the hotter months. Students' letters home describe life at Centenary, and other writing is literally and figuratively still on the walls. Still visible today in some of the dorms are homework assignments scribbled in pencil on the original plaster walls. And although nearly 200 years ago, it appears that even then, students enjoyed an occasional taunt and caricature at the expense of an unpopular professor. Centenary College of Louisiana had high ambitions to be an excellent liberal arts institution, providing a diverse curriculum including tutelage in language, mathematics, law, and sciences. At its height, Centenary had 250 students and 11 faculty members on campus. In 1850, a student staying alone through the winter break in an East Wing dorm room started a fire in the fireplace with a lighted paper that caught the soot in the chimney on fire. The blaze spread quickly along the wooden shingled roof, engulfing the whole building within 20 minutes. Virtually, the entire wing was destroyed and could not be used for a decade. By the mid-1850s, the event of the year in Jackson had become the Centenary Commencement Exercises. The ceremony, with its lengthy orations in English, Latin, and Greek, lasted several days, was held on Centenary's vast lawn, and provided needed entertainment for the townspeople. With special guests and dignitaries traveling to Jackson, the small town was filled to capacity around commencement. 1856 brought in a especially large crowd, as it was at that ceremony that the cornerstone was laid for the new center building. The grand design of the center building featured 3 floors with impressive columned facades. This final section of the college would contain additional classrooms, a 3,000-volume library, a 2,000-seat auditorium, a science library, an observatory, offices, and debate halls. The completion of the center building in 1858 marked the high point in Centenary's operations in Jackson. But it was not to last for long. After only 3 full years of full operations, the Civil War broke out, an event that divided the nation and also ended Centenary's reign in Jackson and as a prime educational institution. The war had harsh consequences for the college and profound lasting effects, as it did for many Southern colleges. Centenary closed early in the conflict, finding that its student body was rapidly dwindling through the enlistment of its students. In 1861, after Louisiana seceded from the Union, the faculty minutes report in large, bold script scrawled across the page, "Students have all gone to war. College suspended, and God help the right." During the war, the college was used as a hospital for both Confederate and Union soldiers, many from the Port Hudson siege, with some 80 being buried on the college grounds. The largest battle in Jackson occurred in August of 1863, when Confederate troops were sent to disrupt Union recruiting operations at Centenary. Many Union soldiers were killed, wounded, or captured. The Confederates were successful in the encounter, making off with the Union supplies. The war took a toll on the buildings themselves. It's said that Union forces actually stabled horses in the main building, and both wings were damaged through conflicts and the Army's poor treatment. This account is by a Jackson resident of the time.
It was then deep dusk, and even as he spoke, we heard the pop, pop, pop of musketry toward the college. The booming of cannon mixed with a louder shot and a soar like many voices and trampling of feet and hoofs, and the fighting came nearer and nearer, but you could see the fire and the dim forms at the end of both streets. The Yankees came in the early summer and drove us out of the schoolroom in a hurry. I took all my belongings, but several pupils left books and slates. The Yankees burned them and used our desks to feed their horses as troughs or as tables whereon to cut their meat.
A year after the end of the war in 1865, the college reopened, but Jackson, the state, and the country had been changed irrevocably. Centenary in Jackson would never regain its former glory. Much was lost during those war years. and the losses were felt acutely in the Jackson area. Before the war, Louisiana was a prosperous, wealthy state on the move, flush with cotton, sugarcane, and vibrant river commerce, and proud of the Centenary College, with its recently completed main building towering above its elegant wings, housing its enviable library of 3,000 titles, a rare resource. At the close of the war, the wealth was gone, and the campus was in shambles. Families, businesses were all broken, and with cotton farming destroyed by the boll weevil, residents struggled to survive. The serious loss of enrollment and endowments compounded the burdens on Centenary and Jackson overall. After the buildings were repaired, the only visible effect of 4 years of war was the soldier cemetery, tucked away on the edge of the campus grounds. But Centenary and Jackson did not yet realize that it too had been mortally wounded by the conflict. The next 30 years proved to be grim for this once proud and respected center of learning and excellence. Centenary languished through the 1870s, 80s, and 90s. The 8 college presidents that presided over these decades spent extended tours seeking any funding or donations that they could find. But funds and donors were scarce as the South struggled to rebuild. In a further effort to raise attendance and revenues, women were permitted to attend the college for the first time in 1898. They were not awarded degrees along with their male counterparts, simply certificates of completion, permitting them to obtain teaching posts. As the first female students were arriving on campus, 4 cottages were being completed to house professors. The college at this time could not afford to pay its teaching staff consistently, and so paid professors as it could and offered the benefit of housing to supplement the partial salaries. Only one of the original cottages remains today. By the turn of the century, Centenary was out of options for its continuance in Jackson and had no choice but to accept a proposal from the city of Shreveport, supported by the local Methodist citizens, of a new 17-acre site plus a sizable investment if the college would relocate to Shreveport. The college's transition from Jackson occurred between 1906 and 1908, but its struggles continued in its new home. Enrollment grew significantly beginning in the 1920s and continued into the 1930s when the Great Depression threatened enrollment and finances. Centenary's greatest fame during this era was its successful venture into big-time collegiate football, with upset wins against Notre Dame, LSU, and the University of Texas, among other gridiron powers. Back in Jackson, the original Centenary campus building sat empty for 15 years. Then, after a brief time in the 1920s as a tuberculosis hospital, were again left to ruin and neared condemnation in 1935. The east, west, and center buildings were by this time owned by 3 different people, 2 of whom sold their buildings for scrap. The east wing and center building, an architectural marvel and beacon of learning and research, were torn down for their bricks and lumber. The raw materials were sold and used in buildings from Jackson to New Orleans, including the old Centenary Inn, currently a bed and breakfast in Jackson. 4 of the stately interior fluted columns were moved and erected along Centenary Boulevard on the Shreveport campus, but were later destroyed by a tornado. The cornerstone had also vanished. The owner of the 3rd building, the West Wing, had other ideas for profiting from the dilapidated property. For nearly 30 years, Centenary's West Wing was rented as low-income housing. By 1977, the West Wing had so deteriorated that it was ready for demolition until local citizens gathered support to save the only grand remnant of the Centenary College of Louisiana. By this time, the West Wing was over 140 years old and showing its age. The state of Louisiana purchased the property and restored the West Wing and remaining professor's cottage. The historic site was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1979. The Friends of Old Centenary, a group of local supporters, continue to play an important role in the preservation of the historic site. Formally organized in 1990, Friends accepts monetary donations and donations of items pertinent to the site. Funds are used for special programs such as reenactments, music, holiday, and school programs. Today, the Centenary name continues with strength in Shreveport, Louisiana, as a leading U.S. private liberal arts college. Rated by the Princeton Review as one of the best colleges in the country, and by Forbes as one of America's best colleges, Centenary is a place that is personal and transformative, where students can discover their unique talents and gifts and prepare to thrive in a changing world. And the college retains its affiliation with the United Methodist Church. And here in Jackson, the lush grounds and impressive West Wing dorm remain with many reminders of the college's former grandeur. We welcome you and invite you to walk the grounds and to explore the original brick outlines of the East Wing, the restored professor's cottage, the baseball field, and the preserved Civil War cemetery. Get a feel for student life in one of the original West Wing dorm rooms and connect with a Louisiana way of life almost as old as the state itself. Centenary College of Louisiana in Jackson, a college with a rich history, is one of Louisiana's earliest institutions of higher learning and an important Civil War site. Now the history lives on, preserved in Jackson as Centenary State Historic Site, and the legacy of liberal arts education continues to prosper in its Shreveport home. Please enjoy your visit.